Buy on top fruit, you have to trust your quality as well.
Yeah.
Because again, if most houses are adding quite a bit of sugar, there is also a reason. I'm not going to say that we're an exception. Many other houses produce great wines. It's just that we have decided to be closer to the natural expression of the wine. And the fact that most houses are adding sugar does also say that sugar is required in Champagne to a certain extent because of the high levels of acidity, as I was explaining.
Yeah, to just soften it off and round the edges and stuff like that.
But then, many wine experts today, wine lovers, are after this very pure, clean, crisp style, and you can't get any closer to the grape and the wine here than with a zero dosage in Champagne. Whether you like it or not, that's another matter. It's another question. But here, we are indeed in direct contact with the wine. And Hervé Augustin, when he arrived at Ayala, knew that the quality was amazing. Because when Bollinger took over Ayala, they took over the house, having, of course, tasted the wines in the cellars. The wines were beautiful. Yeah. They knew that Ayala was a jewel. Hervé had this idea to go to Vinexpo, because it was the year of Vinexpo, which is that big wine fair that we have once every 2 years in Bordeaux. And it was in June 2005. So we just passed Vinexpo this year, 2009. There was an edition before that in 2007. One before that was 2005. So it was 2 editions ago. Hervé Augustin went to Vinexpo with a few bottles of the Brut without any dosage, just as samples. And his first intention was not actually to go with bottles without any dosage. He'd asked our cellar master to prepare a few bottles with a much lower dosage.
Right, okay, yep.
About 4 or 5 grams in the extra Brut category. Because thinking we are going to add a bit, just to soften the edges a little. But his idea was very clear. He wanted to show that even with much less sugar, the wine was still showing beautifully.
Yep.
Just to prove to wine lovers and experts that Brut Measure was a great wine.
It is a bit more austere for me. I thought this was quite linear, but this is even more linear. It's really direct, and it's got, for me, a bit more kind of minerality to it rather than the Brut Measure.
Minerality is indeed one of the main characteristics of this wine. You're again in direct contact with the natural expression of the fruit. We have a lot of minerality in Champagne due to our soils, of course. And here, it also has, I'm sure you picked up the citrus character of the wine as well. Very citrusy, whereas Brut Measure has a more developed fruit character, riper fruit, I would say.
Yeah,
and
so I would
that's
say
what the riper apple maybe. Starting to get also a yeasty character, biscuity. 2 very different wines, although they're exactly the same. Very interesting.
Just shows you what a bit of sugar can do.
Exactly. And then you think about the other non-vintage Bruts that have double that amount of sugar. Just to put it in a perspective. And just to get back to the story, Hervé Augustin asked Nicolas to prepare those bottles, Nicolas Klim, our cellar master, to prepare the bottles with 4 or 5 grams sugar. And Nicolas said, I'd love to do it, but I can't. Not because he didn't trust the quality, it's simply because Vinexpo was getting too close. It was a month before Vinexpo when he asked him that, and Nicolas said we need to let the wines rest in our cellars for about 3 months before we even actually taste them. So Hervé said, if it's a matter of time, because of the sugar, let's forget the sugar and just present the wines without any dosage at all.
So it's by luck rather than
because of it was a matter of luck and situation, context that led Hervé to decide to go to Vinexpo with these bottles without any dosage at all, taking a big risk, of course, because it was the first time in history that a Champagne house was actually presenting its non-vintage Brut, the style of the house, the signature wine, without any makeup, showing it naked. What a risk. Because if you end up having any recognized expert, influential expert come and taste the wine and write a paper about the wine after Vinexpo saying Ayala has just been bought by Bollinger, and we had the opportunity to try the Brut in its most natural state. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this confirms that champagne definitely requires dosage.
Yeah.
A line like that
Yeah,
would
yeah,
say, "Whew, the wine cannot cope with not having any dosage." But the result was totally the opposite.
But the French have got a long history of nakedness and stuff like that, and removing makeup, haven't they?
Really?
Yeah. Well, they certainly have in
That's-
the films that we watch.
Okay. Yeah, I think
So it kind of fits well.
It does, but yeah, but you know, we're kind of leading this way in Champagne. It's a new phenomenon that
Are there many others that have jumped on the bandwagon and gone down the same
A
road?
few others
Okay.
have launched a zero dosage.
Are they all around A?
No, not
No?
necessarily.
They're just
There are
widespread?
some that are close to where we are,
Right,
but yeah, a few houses launched a zero dosage. Paul Roger did, Nicolas Fayette did,
Yeah.
which is a cooperative. I mean, I'm sure other houses are going to follow very soon.
Right, okay.
But we remain the only Grand Marque champagne house to have made a zero dosage with the brut of the house.
Yeah.
With the same aging. Again, this is exactly the same wine as our brut.
Yeah.
Same aging, same blend, without any dosage.
Is Champagne a tight knit kind of community? Do
Definitely is.
you share kind of like cases and say this is what we're going to do, and let on a few secrets here and there, and kind of
With friends from other houses?
Yeah.
Don't really share secrets, but we get along all get along very well
Okay.
together, and I must say myself personally, I do get together with my friends from other houses, and we do share our bottles and do a few swaps sometimes, and
Yeah. Okay,
why not?
that's good.
But to finish the story, after Vinexpo, Hervé basically had this fantastic response with these mystery bottles.
Yeah.
Everybody said to Hervé, you have something fantastic here. A new style is born. You cannot leave this at a tasting. And he therefore launched the Zero Dosage in October 2005 with a new label and an addition to the range. And we've been producing it at every release since then.
Right, okay.
We might decide one year not to release it, because of course we need Mother Nature to offer us that natural balance, the
Yeah.
quality of the fruit and the natural balance of the harvest, to be able to release it without any dosage. But so far, and of course, you know that we're talking about global warming, we're talking about, cycles
Yeah.
whatsoever, whether it's a cycle or global warming. We have had warmer vintages in Champagne
Yeah.
over the past decade or so.
So you're getting much riper fruit, or
We're
are you
getting
picking
riper
earlier?
fruit. So basically, no, we're getting riper fruit.
Right, okay.
Sometimes the harvest start earlier, of
Yeah.
course. But the fact is that the situation today is giving us much more opportunity to produce wines with less dosage, maybe
Yeah.
even without any dosage, than 20 years ago.
Right, okay.
That's the fact.
Is that also better kind of vineyard management contributing to that as well?
Of course, I
Yeah.
mean, technology,
Yeah.
vineyard management, all that goes together. But the bottom line is, if you want to make wines with low dosage or zero dosage, you
Yeah.
have to make a great wine first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The more dosage you're going to have in the wine, the more you're going to be able to afford to have a lesser balanced wine
Yeah.
before the dosage.
Right. Next one.
Sure.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Well, it's fairly early in the morning.
What do you think people are going to think when they see us pour all this champagne in that bucket?
We pour everything in the
We're
bucket.
actually making a cuvee that we're going to taste afterwards.
Yeah. And so this is the rosé. Yep. And
Good guess.
so do you add your Pinot Noir to it?
We
Or-
definitely do. Yes,
do?
exactly.
Okay.
We add 8-9% Pinot Noir
Yeah.
in a base of white wine before bottling. So it's a red wine. It's first made as a red wine,
Yeah.
and it represents 8% of the blend. Just what we need to make that color the way it is and get the red fruit flavors that we get from the red wine. Very delicate.
It's almost
bouquet.
salmon coloured.
Definitely,
Yeah.
it's close to salmon.
Yeah.
And we are the only wine growing region in France where we are allowed to make rosé